Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome James Jimbob Isaac to the podcast. You might know Jimbob from bands like Taint and Hark, but he has a new project called Silverburn. The new Silverburn record, Induced Transcendental Annihilation, came out last Friday on MSH Music Group. If you're into bands like Botch, Dead Guy, and Coalesce, this album is for you. Jimbob talks about his love of Helmet, working as an artist and tattooer, his commitment to getting the drums right on the Silverburn album, genres burning themselves out, and a lot more. This was a great chat, and I'm so stoked to share it. As I keep saying, make sure you're subscribed to As the Story Grows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the podcast on Substack, and join us on Discord or over at Patreon. Patreon members get early access to the podcast, and last week I shared a ton of new episodes on the feed. $1 and you'll have more podcast episodes than you know what to do with. There's also the Patreon exclusive podcast After Dark and Mosh Mixes. Come hang out. Links are in the show notes. Enjoy today's chat with Jimbob Isaac from Silverburn.
You have guitars behind you. I have one guitar behind me.
Nice. Yeah, there's one over there off camera too.
Excellent.
Yeah. You're in Wales?
Yes, Swansea, South Wales, 1 hour away from Cardiff, the capital. About 3 hours from London.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up?
Yes, I lived away a lot, on and off, but I've been back here 7 years now, and I'm loving it. It's like a really great era for me to be back here, and yeah, it's been a roller coaster. The last 15 years roller coaster, but yeah, real good. The last few years have been great, and
nice.
And the album has kind of helped it be great, and the greatness of the era I'm in has also informed the ability to do the album. So it's all like a nice kind of
Nice.
Yeah.
What was growing up like?
Well, Swansea is a small coastal town. It is actually a city. We had city status maybe in the late 70s, 80s. But it's a beautiful part of the world. We have coastline, National Heritage Trust, huge. We have the first area of designated natural beauty in the UK.
Oh, wow.
So we have like a big headland called Gower, Gower, and it's got like 30 beaches all around the whole thing. And so it's beautiful. So there's surfing and skateboarding and punk rock and I suppose you're aware of my previous bands. Mm-hmm. Taint came up in the mid 90s initially, and it was a really, in a small town, you just do everything yourself. So the DIY, that's where my DIY ethic comes from, is necessity, really.
Yeah. How is the UK, and I guess specifically Wales, in supporting musicians or people who are just creative? Because the United States is kind of hostile to you if you want to be a creative person or a musician.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty similar. I don't know, maybe around 10 years, 10, 15 years ago, there was some kind of superficial push by the UK government to pretend to look like they're trying to support the arts and giving certain amounts of grants here or there. But it was, when you compare that to somewhere like Scandinavia or maybe France, or where you've got such incredible support for the arts, it was like a really small token gesture.
Yeah.
You would click onto the website and it would have this nice kind of graphic design landing page, and then you'd try and click through and it would just click you through to some like really utilitarian, like just a few links and like just like an HTML 1984 or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah.
It's not helping me out much.
What got you into music?
Growing up listening to, I would say, like Beastie Boys, Run DMC, and Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard via my brother and older cousins. So I heard like Beastie Boys and Run DMC when I was like 8.
Nice.
Okay, so I did check out Madonna when I was 7. Yeah, so then it was Beastie Boys, Run DMC when I was 8, GNR and Def Leppard and Zeppelin when I was 9. And then, you know, shortly after it's Metallica, then Sepultura, then Helmet and Biohazard and Clutch and Quicksand, and it all just spiraled on from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Was like Helmet and like Quicksand, like I hear that Helmet influence a lot listening to like Taint and Hark. Like were those influencing you when you started bands? Yeah.
1,000%. Like Helmet is in my Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Helmet, Clutch, Quicksand, Sepultura, Metallica, Biohazard, and and then later you get more underground and more diverse, but those were like the big gateway bands.
Yeah.
And I still love those bands to this day. I can still play, I'll take those bands and those key albums to my grave. I should have them all tattooed as a really insane back piece or something like that, like a Mount Rushmore back piece. That would be hilarious.
That'd be pretty. Yeah, get Page's face just on your back.
Yeah.
Games upfield.
Yeah, and I actually just bought an LTD and an ESP guitar with the reverse spiky headstock, where I've always been like a traditional Gibson kind of guy, and for this project and being lucky enough to be able to afford myself these instruments, I thought this is a gnarly sounding project. It's got many chugs, and then I just got obsessed with almost like ticking somewhat of a guilty pleasure type of box with thinking, should I get an ESP with a reverse spiky headstock like Page had?
Yeah,
and I did, and I have no fucks to give.
Yeah. What drew you to guitar?
Actually, my mum had an acoustic guitar laying around when I was a kid, but so I would pick that up and bang on it atonally, but also she used to sit me on the kitchen floor banging pots and pans when I was a real tiny one as well. So, that was when my drumming began, I suppose. Yeah.
Nice. At what point I know you're a tattoo artist too, so at what point did art enter the picture for you?
I was drawing all the time when I was a kid, but then when I ended up in college and uni, I took the digital graphic design route. And when I had the first like jobs in commercial graphic design and web design, I realized that they were not the environments for me, and then went self-employed. And my old friends and mentors, Clutch, gave me my first illustration commission, which again, very lucky. And I just haven't stopped drawing since. So, obviously that was a return to drawing.
Yeah.
Having done it as a young kid, but I was scared to do it, and I made myself do it, and I haven't looked back. But I'm still really glad to have the digital skills, because I've utilized those continuously as well. Yeah.
What led you to tattooing?
I was offered to do it by a shop that I knew at the time, and I was always getting tattooed very gradually and slowly but surely since I was 17, and I've always had a huge respect for it, and I have some very favorite particular artists, and And then I was offered to learn, so I did, and went through, experienced a few ups and downs in a couple of different shops, but it's, I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a quick look at your website. It looks like you do a lot of black and gray. What drew you to that style?
Yes, it's like, I guess it's known as black work tattooing or / dot work tattooing. And it's really an extension of my drawing style, which I, use in my illustration work. So it kind of, I think a lot of people seem to say they can see that it all comes from like the same source with me.
Nice. You talked about punk rock and skateboarding and surfing being like big. Did that create like a good local scene where it was like easy to start bands?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like Taint began in 94, and even though we were like, I mean, even then it was like some sort of Helmet meets Caius type hybrid with a little bit of hardcore punk in there as well. And so in some ways those kind of like bedrock, that mixture of bedrock influences is kind of run through all my bands, with Taint and Hark and Silverburn, even though they're different manifestations. I think they all three have basically had a combination of hardcore, post-hardcore, stoner sludge or whatever, and some metal and punk. So when Taint was first playing, we would always play with really diverse local homegrown lineups, and we would all, we'd play with like a kind of more of a kind of British traditional style punk rock band, and or then with a few friends who were into American hardcore, so more like American hardcore skate punk, and then also Acrimony, the legendary sort of first wave stoner doom band from Swansea, who, for those who know, they were a really special band and really influential, and I suppose I was, Taint would play shows with them too, and I was already getting, I was already into Sabbath anyway, and then started hearing like Cathedral and Caius and Fu Manchu along with Acrimony. So there was always that, like, fundamentally that Sabbathy inspiration as well. So, and actually Swansea has had a stream of what you could call stoner rock or stoner rock inspired bands, many of which have hardly gained much exposure outside of South Wales, but there's a lot of really good bands from here, and yeah, maybe it's something to do with being in this. I'm not going to say backwater, because that's a little bit, possibly a little bit, derogative. Because we're pretty accessible. We can drive to London in 3 hours, which is really not that big a deal. But yeah, there just seems to be something about the sort of regional. I suppose in some ways we are a tad cut off, so perhaps there's a similarity to the New Orleans or Savannah sludge scenes in that sense. Maybe a similar mentality, something like that. Because in the Taint era, we befriended Kylisa and Baroness. We did quite a lot of like tours or mini tours or dates with them anytime they came over, and always felt super just naturally like-minded and whatnot.
Yeah. The last Hark record, Machinations, came out in 2017. Did you think you were done with music after that release, or some point after that record release?
In some ways, I was never sure. I mean, the band dissolved, and I didn't touch my instruments or anything for 2.5 years. Needed so much time out. Felt quite a lot of burnout after that band. And so, yeah, the Silverburn just grew really organically, phase by phase, spiral by spiral. Like you start at the bottom, get up to the top of this spiral, and then back down and start again. And I suppose in a lot of spiritual areas, that's referred to as spiral learning and whatnot. Felt very much like, well, countless amounts of spirals that occupied this whole project. So it was just in lockdown. Had nothing to do. I was, not one to be drinking or smoking or distracting myself with things like that, and keeping sober and focused. And then started realizing, hang on a minute, I know so little about home production software, and I just realized it was a bit of an epiphany whilst doing some like jam videos with Eloy Casagrande from Sepultura, the incredible drummer, who was sharing clips for his followers to jam with remotely, and I had real fun doing a few clips with him, and then was like, oh shit, I need to really pull my finger out and learn a whole lot more about all of this stuff. And then as soon as I realized I could basically demo up some high quality drum tracks of my own, creating them myself from scratch or organically, not like preset type stuff, not loops, but actually like tapping stuff in organically. I was not using like quantization or anything like that, just straight up real deal, painstakingly edited and constructed, but retaining my own sense of groove and feel and swing and whatnot. It was like, oh wow, this is incredible. So I demoed up, obviously writing each song whilst then, constructing it as I would go along, and did the 8 demo tracks within 12 months, and then immediately started practicing the physical live drums for what ended up being another following 12 months.
Wow.
So, first year is home demos, second year is regular drum practice, and then when the time was right, booked studio time, and went in and recorded all of it. And Gethin Pearson, who I had worked with during Hark, he's a good friend and excellent at what he does, and we figured out a way for us to capture the drums for real. And it was basically it followed on from how I was practicing along to the demos in my regular drum sessions anyway. So it was the same thing, except with mics and recording on it, Yeah. But yeah, we figured out a few ways of how to go about it, and we did it. We put the drums down first, and then guitars, bass, vocals. Really rewarding journey. Super rewarding, but super hard. Well, very committed. A lot of graft. Like I've said, somebody else like it. I bought my drum kit and I was pulling it out of my apartment, down the steps into my car, take it to rehearsal once a week, do like a 5-hour drum session, with 1 or 2 little breaks, obviously, but yeah, and then just load it back in the car and back up the steps into my apartment for pretty much every weekend for a year. And it felt like the equivalent of going out and chopping wood. It was like, right, I'm doing this. And then it helped me maintain my gym, gym sessions, which informed, I had to like holistically, be everything that I was doing had to complement this mission.
This
What was inspiring you musically when you started writing? Because like, if you listen to Taint and Hark, like you can hear that in Silverburn, but like just hearing the record itself, it instantly reminded me of like Dead Guy and Botch and like that mathcore scene.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's like we had rehearsal band practice today for the live band, and like I've said to the guys a few times recently, like when I first started tapping out the drum patterns in the digital demos for the first song, Annihilation, I was almost doing it, certainly at that point thinking, this will never get played by anyone. This will just be like a gnarly digital like home album that I'll put out on Bandcamp, and I won't care, and I'll mix it the best I can make it in Logic and whatnot. And so when I first went, I was chuckling to myself, and I put the first riffs down, and I just thought, oh right, okay, so this is going to be a fucking brutal album. Okay, then.
Yeah.
I didn't really decide on it. But the more that the tracks, by the time I'd written the first track, which was Annihilation, then I realized, like, okay, I've never fully expressed my influence of bands like Dead Guy and Botch and Keel. I mean, I suppose somebody like the Keelhaul kind of influence has been in my sound for a long time, I suppose. Anyway, at least in the guitar playing. But being able to kind of encapsulate all of that side, because I love these bands to death, like they're somebody like Botch and Dead Guy and Keelhaul and who else am I thinking of? Kiss It Goodbye and Coalesce and the early ISIS stuff. I love those bands and those records as much as like Helmet and Clutch and Caius, and it's like, holy shit, wow, I'm going to be able to really go balls out and express all of that in this record. And as each song was written, I was just kind of like, just constantly just fuck it, I'm just doing it, fuck it, I don't care. I'm not chasing any trends. I'm not trying to get a big record deal. I'm not trying to follow a hip new sound or that's going to sell a ton of records and get me on Letterman. I was like, nah, no. I mean, and you could even argue that what Hark was doing, even though it was a real deal extension of Taint and the sort of lineage and the DNA I had within Taint, and I don't say this to knock Hark or the music that Hark made, but in some ways, you could kind of say, well, it was somewhat following the wave of the whole prog sludge thing, and there was only so far Hark was able to take that sound. And when I hear other newer bands treading similar paths to that, I just start to feel like it's kind of doesn't really work. It's a bit almost, I feel like the time is up on that whole sound, and unless you've already, unless you're talking about Mastodon and Baroness, who are fantastic bands and they deserve to be where they are no matter what. Other than that, it's like really I feel like a lot of bands that have traveled in their wake have not been able to sort of sustain themselves creatively or commercially.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt, as I said earlier, I felt really burned out after the end of Hark for a few different aspects, and so the aggression and the zero fucks given attitude behind Silverburn was very much like a response to the post-Hark burnout.
Yeah.
And again, it is the influences, as I've said, I love those bands to death. Dead Guy, Botch, Coalesce, ISIS, And then there's always going to be that Unsane helmet.
Yeah.
And, even a few chugs, some Sepultura chugs and even some, one or two certainly one little Pantera kind of chug moment in there. Because I grew up with those bands. Yeah. And I absolutely love the last 3 or 4 Sepultura albums too.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people are still obsessed with, it's Max and Ego. Yeah. But then, and if you've seen the current lineup of Sepultura, you'll see what an absolute monster of a live band they are.
Yeah,
incredible. Like
Eloy, Derek crushes it as a vocalist.
Yeah, Derek's amazing. Actually, I did a T-shirt for them and got to hang out with them last summer at a show in Wales, and they were super lovely. Derek especially, because he and I spoke about the design to begin with, and they were all super nice, and Derek is lovely, and their show was absolutely incredible. Yeah. So I'm not really so into the whole like allegiance to Max and Igor. Nothing against them, but I'm just pound for pound, I'm looking at a real deal, incredible live band, and that's present day Sepultura.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, not that I need to go on and on about that, but so yeah, there's some Sepultura bit moments and flavors and influences in Silverburn too, because I grew up on that, and it's they obviously had a huge impact on a lot of modern hardcore bands as well. So
yeah,
it's like a big melting pot of all of that stuff.
The album's called Self-Induced Transcendental Annihilation. It's a mouthful. Where'd the title come from, and how does that encompass like the lyrical themes on the album?
It's funny. I don't remember exactly when I settled on those words as a title. It came to me one day, but it stems after having gone through my nervous breakdown or annihilation or awakening or whatever you'd like to call it, and all the lyrics, pretty much all of the lyrics, kind of tap into those kind of themes and healing and there's a lot of like spiritual aspects and philosophical aspects. There's some Carl Jung in there. I just finished our live intro, and there's like a few Carl Jung quotes in the live intro. One of which, there's 2 of them. There's one, you are not what happened to you, you are what you wish to become. And those who look outside are asleep, those who look inside awake. So, it was a lot of like self-discovery and healing, and, I had undergone a few difficulties in my personal life during the Hark era as well. So it was accumulatively, I got sent to the absolute fucking rock bottom, and annihilated, and then rebirthed, and then spent the last 7 years healing and repairing and regrowing. And so yeah, that's what the title is, and that's what the bulk of the lyrics really is.
Nice. Did you do the album artwork?
Yes, yeah. That was my first digital painting because I just wanted to make it look different from the previous band and both bands, and I just really wanted to have that painterly look and see how it would turn out, and I like it.
Nice. Yes, I do too.
Cool. Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, most people have told me they like it. One or two have been a bit freaked out by it.
That's okay. It fits
Yeah.
the music, right? You know?
Yeah. I think the color, again, a lot of friends have gone, the colors are so striking. It's really different. I'm like, that's great. Because I mean, the colors spoke to me anyway, but at the same time, when I was first doing some kind of early concepts or whatnot, and with the logo and stuff, I started doing it in some, grays and tones and dark stuff, and I was like, no, this is not. I'm not going to allow this to be monochromatic. It has to be colorful and saturated.
The album is out Friday. What's the rest of this year look like for you? And you got a live band?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've spent just over a year rehearsing. My guys are crushing it. We're all having a really good time doing it, and we're all super pumped. So we play the debut show this Saturday in Swansea at home. The following weekend, we will play Arctangent Festival in the UK with Converge and Swans, and lots of other bands, Igor, tons of different bands. So that, we're obviously over the moon about such a great slot as our second show. So that's that. And then in September we'll do 2 shows with Mutoid Man, which is going to be fun because they're a super cool band, and they will be excellent live, and it will be nice to see Jeff, because I've known Jeff for a few years. He was always aware of Taint and Hark, and so we always say hi whenever. So it'll be nice to see them, I haven't seen Stephen Brodsky since last year when I went to see Old Man Gloom and Aaron tattooed me backstage. So I got to hang out with OMG and get an Aaron Turner tattoo on my leg.
It's pretty fucking rad.
And that'll be, that's the same venue in Bristol in the UK. So we'll be nice to play there and crush it and have a good time with them. And then there will be the London show with them as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, just to sort of further the thing about live and touring, we're looking at tours, seeing what's out there. We'll see who wants to take us out and this and that. So, we have we're open to see what we can do and who with and in what capacity. Further into the end of the year and next year, hopefully get over to Europe and just get the word out. But as for the rest of the album, it's zero compromise. I made it entirely myself, authentically so, and the drums are real deal drums by me and everything. And I practiced for a whole year to be able to do it, because I had prior on-off drumming abilities to a certain degree, and then I really had to step it up a whole lot. I'm really proud of it in that sense, and my drummer is really complimentary. My live drummer, Adam, and Ross, our bass player, they're both super complimentary about it. Plus, they're both really strong players as well. So, it's been I've done it for me. I don't give a fuck about anything else or anyone else. I don't, not to be negative about anything, but just more I just don't care, if you see what I mean. And I think that energy comes through in the music and the whole album as well. And I'm super happy with Geffen and the mix he achieved at the end. And obviously I was giving him lots of reference points and this and that, but I'm super happy with how it sounds. And I think it sounds really organic and heavy. And a lot of modern metal recordings I find a bit too digital, clean, samey, and I think this is real deal kind of 90s 2000s heavyweight production value. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out.
Yeah.
I'm just finding certain genres and trends out there at the moment, just a bit really going through the motions, kind of what I touched on earlier in, the kind of post-prog sludge thing. It's like, I know I still have some of those elements in this record because I'm from that, but
Yeah.
But yeah, the zero fucks attitude on this has been really fun because I kind of feel like nobody else is actually kind of doing this right now in a way. Now that it's completed and I can see it from a distance instead of being in it, I feel like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool because I don't really know. There aren't really other bands out there really doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Not as a new entity, and I feel like I'm mixing influences in such a way that, it's not just straight up Botch, it's not just straight up Dead Guy, it's not straight up Sepultura, but, it's like different flavors like I've always tended to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that it's completed, I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool actually, because other people are kind of staying in certain lanes, which I'm finding a bit stale, to be honest. I didn't expect the whole stoner rock thing to sort of continue in the way that it has, and
Yeah.
I love certain bands from that heyday, but I don't know. There's a lot of really cookie cutter stuff out there.
Yeah.
And
for sure,
I'd like to think that all my bands, including now Silverburn, have never been cookie cutter, and I think in this current climate, now that it's complete and I can step back from it, I feel like Silverburn is actually, it's not cookie cutter, you know. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to be too self-congratulatory here, but
it's a good record. You should be proud of it. So
thank you very much. Very kind of you.
Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite main influences? And
oh man, Dillinger Escape Plan, Quicksand. I like bands like Hatebreed and Converge. I fucking love Converge. Botch, Coalesce. Yeah. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, amazing. I mean, Converge is a big inspiration as well. And Kurt actually mixed the first Hark record.
Oh, nice.
Actually, Taint opened Converge's first ever show in London in 2000, or maybe it was
really?
99. It was on the Poacher Diaries. So it was pre-Jane Doe, and Taint was on its first mini album. It was actually a full length, considering it was 45 minutes. But the punk label at the time said, "Oh, we'll call it a mini album or mini CD," which is stupid. Just because of the amount of songs being less than a hardcore album, even though it was 40 or 42 minutes long. But we opened for Converge to about 30 people in a small show in London on the Poacher Diaries, and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I'm a big Converge fan, and I love the first few Dillinger records as well. So yeah, for sure.
Nice.
And Quicksand is Slip is like to me what Michael Jackson Bad is to some other people, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Holy Grail. I didn't get that new reissue though, the Slip reissue with the nice packaging, because
I didn't either.
I wanted it, but I couldn't justify it because I already had like a nice reissue from a few years ago.
Oh, cool.
I thought, okay, I don't need the extra booklet, as much as it'd be nice.
Yeah.
And also Knut on Hydra Head.
Nice.
Good friends of mine. I actually just got this because sadly their singer Didier passed away a year ago, and Roderick and the other guys did a tribute show in Geneva about 3 months ago. So I went over, and real special time, and because Taint had toured with Knut and we're real good friends. And I sang 2 songs with the kind of Knut ensemble, and there's a lot of, there's a couple of real key moments on the Silverburn album, which as I was writing them, I was like, oh, this is definitely a Knut part, and I kind of stuck with it. And so, Silverburn's definitely a tribute to Didier and Knut, because I really miss that band. Incredible band.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you know them?
No, I'm not familiar. I'll have to check them out. Yeah.
They were on Hydra Head.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to, if you like Silverburn, and Coalesce, and you've got to listen to Knut. Challenge.
I just pulled up their Bandcamp page, so I'll have to check them out.
Oh man, this is gonna change. I think it'll be your new favorite band. They're fucking incredible.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.